Common sense would tell you that as you move up a brand's food chain, you can expect appreciable improvements in performance. I mean, there's no way a brand would let their entry-level product outshine their higher-end offerings, right? Well, let's find out if KEF got that memo as we take a look at their Q750 tower speaker. The KEF Q750 is a compact 2.5-way tower loudspeaker that features the brand's iconic UniQ driver array, and that places a 1-inch vented aluminum dome tweeter inside a 6.5-inch aluminum woofer. Now, there's also a dedicated aluminum bass driver as well as two 6.5-inch passive radiators. Together, this gives the speaker a reported frequency response of 48 Hz to 28 kHz. Impedance is rated at 8 ohms, though it can dip to just below 4 ohms. Sensitivity is 88 dB, meaning the 750 isn't a crazy difficult speaker to drive, but for best results, you'll want to pair it to an integrated amp or AV receiver capable of driving a 4-ohm speaker with a solid 50 or more watts on tap. The Q750 is gorgeous. KEF is nothing if not consistent when it comes to the look of their products, and of all the speakers we've reviewed, I actually prefer the look of the 750 to that of the Metas and the Wireless 2s. The 750 is short for a tower speaker. They don't dominate a space the way some towers can. Klipsch 8000Fs, I'm talking about you. Now, the 750 does have outrigger feet that raise the profile of the speaker by a few inches. The feet can provide some measure of added stability, which can have an effect on the speaker's sonic performance, but in our room, their usefulness was negligible at best, so we left them off. The exposed drivers lend a bit of visual interest, though it should be noted that if you want or need grills, they're sold separately and cost an additional $50, something I'm not sure I agree with. Now, when it comes to power, the KEFs aren't that difficult to drive, but a solid amplifier is recommended to ensure you're getting the most out of them with respect to not only their bass, but also their top-end clarity. We use both the Audiolab 6000A Play as well as the M1, which are Class AB integrateds with 50 watts per channel at their disposal. The Audiolab products prove to be a great match for the KEF. Stepping things up, we also tried the 750 with the Parasound Hint 6 integrated. This was my favorite overall pairing, but I will admit, this combo does kind of cross into high-end money territory. The good news is you don't have to spend big money to enjoy the 750s. The Cambridge Audio AXR 100 at $600 also paired well with these speakers. Those of you considering the 750s for home theater use, we were able to drive them comfortably to about 90 dB or so using the Marantz NR1711 AV receiver. I would, however, recommend a more powerful receiver such as the Onkyo RZ50 or the Denon X3700H with these speakers if you're trying to achieve true cinema-like results. We paired the 750 with the Q650C center speaker and found the match between the towers and center to be utterly seamless. You could use either the Q150 or Q350 bookshelves for surrounds and 2 or 4 Q50As to round out a 2 or 4 channel Atmos setup. Now, I don't want to spoil the review, but these so far are my favorite KEF speakers to date. They're not perfect, but they're imperfect in all the right ways, which makes them feel more organic and gives them a bit of personality. 2 words I normally wouldn't use to describe a KEF speaker. But let's start with the bass. Bass-wise, the 750s are not the deepest reaching tower speaker on the market. They're relatively solid into about the mid 40 Hz region. And if you have a room that loads bass in and around that range, they may even come across as sounding richer down low than they really are. I was fine listening to them without a subwoofer connected, but for movie watching, or if you're a fan of true full-range playback, I'm afraid a subwoofer or 2 will be required. We tried them with our SVS 3000 micro subs, and the pairing was quite nice, though if you want a sub that will be a better match for the 750s physically, I'd take a look at KEF's Cube Series subwoofers. So while the 750 may not reach all the way into the basement with respect to its ultra low-end extension, from about 40 Hz on up to the mid-range, the bass is shockingly articulate. Turn things up a bit and pair it with a good amplifier like the Audiolab or Parasound, and you may start to hear fine details in the bass of your favorite tracks that a lot of sub $2,000 speakers smooth or otherwise gloss over altogether. Which brings me to the mid-range. I don't know if it's the presence of a bit of more low-end weight, a subtle cabinet resonance, or the combination of both, but the Q750's mid-range is not the sterile, uber-neutral affair I'm used to from KEF, specifically in reference to the Metas. there is a bit of added body throughout the mid-range, and it sounds more organic, dare I say, pleasing. At least to me. I still believe the 750's mid-range is largely neutral in that it isn't warm or cool, so with respect to an instrument or singer's inherent timbre, the 750 isn't coloring the sound. But compared to the far more rigid cabinet of the Meta, the 750s sound a little livelier in the mid-range. It just has the right amount of character in that form of resonance that instruments and vocals sound more real compared to the scalpel-like precision of the Meta. But detail and coherence, two attributes KEF is known for, still reign supreme. Treble-wise, the 750s aren't as refined as the Metas, but are still very impressive. While both the 750s and the Meta's tweeter are constructed from aluminum, the 750's use of it sounds decidedly metallic, whereas the Metas don't always. This isn't a bad thing per se, as the 750's high frequencies are detailed and airy, but at really loud volumes, they can exhibit a bit of sibilance. Keep things below 90 dB or so, and I doubt many people would really be able to tell the two speakers apart with respect to their high frequency performance. What impressed me most, though, was among speakers in their class, the 750 had some of the more impressive detail and resolution while never becoming aggressive or worse forward. With respect to soundstage, the 750s, unlike the Metas and the LS50 Wireless 2s, are epic. These things image like nobody's business, orally disappearing in our room with ease. Honestly, next to some Focal speakers we've had this year, the 750s may be among the best with respect to soundstage width, depth, separation, and detail throughout. Tow them in just a bit and center imaging is second to none. Monitor-like precision, but with the added weight and dimension only a tower can give you. When it came to home theater, the 750 with the 650C in a 3.0 or 3.1 configuration proved to be nearly surround sound-like in its ability to almost encompass Christy and I in sound. I kick myself for not requesting the matching Atmos modules because I suspect a 3.1.2 setup with the 750s at the heart of it all may be all the home theater setup this guy would ever need. Dynamically, the 750s are a little reserved, dare I say polite. These are not explosive speakers in the same way Klipsch or Focal speakers can be, even when playing at more moderate volumes. Turning things up or having a capable amplifier definitely helps unlock the 750's total dynamic threshold, but it also helps in the macro dynamics when listening more at moderate volumes. Overall, I really like the Q750. In many ways, they remind me of B&W 600 and even 700 series speakers from back in the day. The Q750 gave me the sound I was hoping we'd get from the new B&W 600 anniversary speakers, but didn't. Needless to say, I believe the Q750 is the superior speaker to the current 600 anniversary series from B&W. But as good as the Q750s are, they're not perfect, though their faults, at least for me, rest not in their sound, but in their build. For starters, grills should never be optional, and while $50 isn't necessarily budget busting, I think it's a bit ticky-tack on KEF's part. Audiophiles have kids and pets, and for them, grills likely aren't optional. Lastly, I personally don't like the outrigger feet. They're cheap, and in my opinion, they dress down an otherwise very tailored Q750. I know for some, the feet are going to be handy, but for a speaker that retails for almost $1,800 a pair, they're nowhere near nice enough when you have other brands like Wharfedale and Focal at the same price or less, looking more upscale in comparison. Speaking of Focal, the Q750 goes head-to-head with the Focal Cora 816 and the 826, though the latter is a bit more expensive. The Focal sound is more lively and forward in comparison, but it is also punchier with respect to bass, not to mention demonstrably more dynamic across the board. Both the Cora and Q-Series speakers excel when it comes to soundstage and center imaging, though I might still give the slightest edge to the Cora, but I am really nitpicking. To be honest, it would likely come down to a coin toss which of these two speaker series I prefer, for they're both just excellent. So choose whichever one works for you. Other notable comparisons include the Klipsch 8000F, which are less expensive and larger compared to the KEF. The Klipsch are livelier, more punchy, and dynamic sounding, not to mention can play deeper, and for some rooms, this may negate the need for a separate subwoofer, which only adds to the 8000F's value proposition. Snag a pair of 8000Fs on sale, and that's tantamount to stealing. Now compared to the KLH Model 5, this one is a bit tougher because both speakers are insanely enjoyable and listenable across the widest range of source material. I would personally go with the Model 5s over the Q750s so long as the Model 5s were in their walnut finish and I had no plans to build a home theater system around them. If I had home theater aspirations, I would park my money with the KEFs. But for two-channel listening, the 5s are just a bit weightier down low and a touch more dynamic throughout that I would side with them in this head-to-head. But again, we are splitting hairs between degrees of relative excellence. And as I mentioned earlier, given my experience with the B&W 600 series anniversary bookshelf speakers, I'm talking about both the 606 and the 607, I would choose the KEF Q series, specifically the 750 here, over the comparable B&W Tower. These are great speakers, and in many ways, they are my favorite from KEF that I've heard so far. I love their look, I absolutely adore their sound, and I think they are as at home in a two-channel setup as they are in a home theater. While I will admit you can definitely get tower speakers for less or that do something a little bit better here or there, in terms of overall balance, the Q750s are hard to outright beat. I might actually request to hold on to these as a general reference tower speaker under $2,000 because I think they're worth it. So that's it. That is now my review of the KEF Q750 tower speaker, but now it's time to find out if Christy even liked them.
Oh, I really like these speakers.
Yeah?
I mean, does KEF even know how to make an ugly speaker?
I don't think they do.
I don't think they do. I mean, the feet aside.
Yeah.
Everything else, very, very nice. And I don't know. I can't decide if I like if we're just talking like style, if I like these better or the Metas. I think they're so completely different.
Yeah.
These feel a little bit more traditional, kind of more like classic.
Oh, for sure.
Whereas the Metas are a little bit more modern stylistically, I think. So I think that it's great that KEF gives you something a little bit different depending on like what your personal home aesthetic looks like.
Absolutely.
But I love them. I think they're beautiful. I agree with you. The whole like not including grills. I mean, come on. What was it really going to break the bank to just put them in the box?
I don't get it.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't get it.
But I will say this. I think that they are really gorgeous without the grills. I mean, I don't know that I would put grills on them. But we don't really have that concern. I mean, we don't have kids, and our dog is...
She pretty much
stays away from speakers, which is nice. So it's not something that we have to worry about. But anyway, I digress. Now, I think these are some of the best soundstage-wise speakers I've ever heard. I mean, especially when it comes to the width. I'm not sure I can recall a speaker of this size because honestly, I mean, they're not that big.
No.
They're really sort of diminutive when it comes to a tower.
Oh yeah, if you leave the feet off, which I'm not endorsing that you do or don't, definitely if you get these speakers, experiment, find out for yourself what's going to work for you. But if you leave the feet off, these are actually shorter in stature than a common bookshelf speaker on our solid steel stands. So, and I didn't think that to be true until I was moving them around to get ready for another review, but yeah, they're actually shorter than most bookshelf speakers on stands, which is awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And what was really impressive for me is how far out to the sides the sound field felt.
Yes.
It was really, really cool. Yeah. I mean, and this is even sitting off axis. You still feel, at least for me, I still felt enveloped by the sound. And with movies and the Dolby, and something that was Dolby Atmos, like content, the spatial cues that you get were incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really impressive. It's the kind of lateral width in soundstage, and with respect to soundstage, that you sort of, if you're in home theater, you've grown accustomed to because you have surround speakers that kind of help pull that sound around. Or if you're a big fan of sound bars that may have side firing drivers, they throw that sound out to the side. So, but for two-channel listening, it's actually really difficult for a speaker to have that wide of a dispersion where sound is almost 180 degrees wraparound, which is really impressive. Really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, if I was looking for a home theater setup, these would be high on my list.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, now one speaker you didn't talk about.
Oh no, what did I
was,
forget?
The Heco Aurora 700, and I can already hear the typey type on the keyboards going off in the comments. So go ahead and explain yourself.
You're right. I can't include a comment on everything. The Heco Aurora is going to fall into the Klipsch 8000F / Yamaha C97-2 kind of camp, where if you're going for a punchier, more lively, more dynamic, I don't want to say in your face, but that sort of you are there live type performance, then that's that camp. KEF is not that. Now, this Q750 is nowhere near, I don't want to say analytical, but nowhere near as exacting as, say, the Metas or the Wireless 2s were. But it kind of straddles that line between being kind of Meta-like, but not fully that kind of fun, punchy Klipsch sound, right? And so the Hecos are going to kind of fall into that more fun, punchy, dynamic, raw sound. Whereas I really think the Q750s start to approach that level of sound quality that if you're looking at a speaker, maybe this is going to be your second or third purchase. If it's your first purchase, color me jealous, but maybe this is your second or third purchase because you're looking for that upgrade, right? That upgrade path from, say, a Yamaha C97. This isn't going to be as dynamic, so you might have to contend with that, but you are going to get more refinement. And so that's why I guess I left the Hecos off, is it just, they fall into that camp. I felt I kind of talked about it with respect to the Klipsch, but for those of you that are confused, yes, I would put the Hecos and the Yamos all in this other camp, and the KEF really isn't, it's comparable, but it's not really the same thing.
Okay.
Does that help? Sorry, don't mean to leave stuff off.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with you 100% that the Metas are, overly neutral or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't remember them being that way, but it's been a while since we've heard them. So I don't know how much I can trust that recollection, mm-hmm. but that's it. That's all I have to say. All right. Great speakers. Loved it. Glad to have something else from KEF in house.
Yeah.
They're always fun.
They really are. They make a good product. So that's it. That is now our review of the Q750 from KEF. What did you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. And of course, it wouldn't be a review without a question of the day. And my question of the day for you is this. Has there been a time where you found yourself preferring a brand's more affordable options over their higher end gear? And what was it? Let us know. I'm curious if there are any budget or cheaper products that you feel outperform some more higher end ones from the same brand. Let's get a conversation going because I think that'll be really interesting. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out. If you use any of the links that Christy left for you down below, know that that is a great way that you have continued to show your support for this channel and the work that we do here. And we both thank you all very much for doing that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and that is it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you again for watching. See you on the next video.